Today we're diving into something really fundamental: how a sovereign nation defines its own people. We're going to use the official enrollment ordinance from the Hannahville Indian community as our map to explore the very structured journey someone takes to become a citizen.
You know, when you really think about it, this whole process, all the rules and steps, they all boil down to this one big question. This is so much more than just paperwork. It's about identity, it's about ancestry, and it's about the very real legal framework that a community builds to define itself.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the very foundation of membership, like who's even eligible to apply in the first place. Then, we'll walk through the actual application journey. After that, we'll see what happens on the other side once that application is submitted. And finally, we'll talk about what it takes to maintain that status. All right, so let's start at the very beginning, right? Before anyone even thinks about filling out a form, the community's own constitution lays out the core rules for who can even be considered for membership.
For most applicants, the whole journey starts right here, with this one specific document, a census roll from 1934. Being able to trace your family line back to someone on this list is pretty much step one. You can think of it as the historical anchor for the entire community, a foundational snapshot in time.
Now, building on that foundation, there are a few different, really distinct pathways to membership. You could be a direct descendant of someone on that 1934 base roll, or it might be determined by birth, and that depends on your parent status, and then there's also a formal adoption process. Each path is very clearly spelled out.
Okay, let's drill down on that by birth category for a second, because this is where a really key distinction comes into play, where your parent lives actually matters. So if you're a child born to a member who lives on the reservation, you're eligible. But if that parent lives elsewhere, there's an additional requirement. Their child has to have 1/2 or more Indian blood.
And this right here is an absolutely crucial point for anyone thinking of applying. Membership in the Hannahville Indian community is exclusive. The rules require you to give up membership in any other tribe. It's all about a singular commitment and allegiance to this one community.
All right, so let's say an applicant knows they meet those foundational criteria. What's next? Well, that brings us to the application journey itself, the part where all of this becomes very real and tangible.
From the applicant's point of view, the ordinance makes it super straightforward. It's basically 4 key steps. First, you get the official form. You fill it out completely, making sure to trace your family back to that base roll we talked about. Then you gather all your proof. And finally, you submit the whole package.
And when we talk about proof, the requirements are really specific. We're not talking about a quick photocopy here. You're going to need an original or a certified copy of your birth certificate, maybe some other legal documents like a paternity affidavit, and potentially that certified certificate of degree of Indian blood from the BIA.
And here's something really important to remember. Any document you hand over becomes a permanent part of the community's official records. That just goes to show you how seriously this whole application process is taken. Okay, so you've done your part. You've submitted your application. What happens now? This is where your application leaves your hands and starts its own journey through the community's governing structure.
This whole internal review follows a really clear chain of command with set timelines. First, the enrollment staff get 30 days to check everything and do their research. Then it goes to a 6-member enrollment committee, and they have another 30 days to vote. And hey, if they say no, the journey isn't necessarily over. The applicant can still appeal to the tribal council.
And when it comes to an appeal, the timeline is absolutely critical. The clock starts ticking the moment an applicant gets that rejection notice in the mail. From that day, they have exactly 30 days to file an appeal. After that, the tribal council has 45 days to review everything and make the final call. And this quote, taken straight from the ordinance, leaves no room for doubt. The tribal council has the last word. Their decision on an appeal is the end of the line for that specific application process. It's final. Okay, so let's switch gears and assume the best, right? An application is successful. You're in. What happens then? This last section is all about what it means to be a member and how you maintain that status over time. So it turns out membership isn't always permanent. It can end in one of 2 ways. An adult can voluntarily choose to give up their membership. They put it in writing, and that's that. It's final. Or in more serious cases, like if someone enrolled fraudulently or joined another tribe, the community can involuntarily disenroll that person.
But there's a really important exception here, a kind of second chance, if you will. If a minor's membership was given up by a parent, they get a shot to reclaim it for themselves. There's a 30-day window right after their 18th birthday when they can reapply.
And to ensure the total integrity of the membership roll, the process doesn't just stop at approval. All new memberships actually go through a one-year audit period. It's just a way to double-check that all the research was spot on and that all the criteria were met.
You know, throughout this entire really personal process, privacy is treated with the utmost importance. The ordinance makes it crystal clear that individual enrollment files are confidential. Access is super limited, basically only the member themselves and specific tribal officials for official business can see it.
So we end up right back where we started, but maybe with a new perspective. When you look at all these detailed rules, from a census roll in 1934 all the way to the finality of an appeal, you start to see it's not just a procedure. It's a sovereign nation using a formal legal process to define, preserve, and protect its most valuable asset, its own identity.